All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. My Father, we just thank you again for this nice day and for allowing us to be here. Help us to honor you and to give wisdom and to make decisions that send the people from now in public to honor you and
Mr. Pollock. It is a beautiful first Monday in May here, so we've got a kind of a light agenda, but we're going to give it all we got. So the first thing on is county personnel and public comment. Is there anybody like to speak? I don't see anyone, but if you, hey, all right.
Sorry. I just want to try something real fast. As we're getting further into the year and it's starting to get warmer. I noticed that we have a no shorts policy. It's in our policy. And I was wondering if we might visit allowing us to wear shorts during the summer. You know, I'm not talking about cut off shorts or, you know, I have shorts that I wear to the country club or out and about, you know, they're good looking shorts. And I was just wondering if we were able to find a policy that was that you guys agreed upon, if it be something you might visit.
Okay.
That was fun. Like I said, I should start looking for a policy or on something.
All right, well, we will ponder that. How's
Okay.
that? All right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Okay. I guess seeing none, we'll just move right on to item number 1 on the agenda. And that is the minutes from April 30th meeting. Are there any comments, additions, or corrections to the minutes as, excuse me, as presented?
I don't know that we need to have somebody saying that we made the corrections, we just could say we corrected them. That's all right.
What's that?
Didn't need to say I was one that made the correction, we just-
Oh,
but that's all right.
well,
No big deal.
okay. They're just trying to keep them pretty accurate. So we,
Right. That's fine.
okay.
We approved the 4:30 and 25.
All right,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for April 30th. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. That's passed. Number 2 is an email we got here from Noxious Weed Director regarding the funding for the proposed building out at the landfill. That's be a shared project between the 2 departments, and we've been speaking a lot about how we fund things out there, and this is something they came up with. So is there comments on this? I mean, it's pretty general, but Mr. Hill, did you look at that and?
Email I reviewed with active what was.
Richie's proposal is to, since he's got the money in his fund, capital improvement fund, I believe I said that right, yeah. To build the building and have the landfill lease office space.
Really needs to do.
Yeah.
So far. Binding policy, so I.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. I didn't know who to direct the questions to. I just, so when I looked, and this brought up a whole bunch of documentation that the clerk was nice enough to send forward. We looked at the landfill origination documents where it says how things will be funded. We've talked about it in the past. That's user fees are the primary source of revenue for the landfill, but they are eligible to pull out of the general fund, I believe, is what I read. Yeah, but it is to be paid back. Sounds like there's options anyway on.
Yeah,
fund.
it's what I saw, and there's just the capital improvement fund, I believe, is something that there previously said that we used. For generalized, depending on how it's coded and everything, but I don't think a problem with that as far as a lease back provision. We can check with them on that. It's really one. General. Okay. So I think that'd be more of an auditing question. We have to see if that's something that, since it's separate funding and a separate, I mean, it comes from a separate tax fund specifically for that. I think that's what we need to look at, is whether that's something that can happen. One to another. Checking. Policy.
Okay. That makes sense, to everybody.
So the questions I might have is, I mean, the landfill, not just weed, is out there at the landfill owns the land and they own the building that's there now, because that's the whole, the landfill out there, not just weed, is just housed out there with them, so I think we can figure out how to make this work together. I mean, because most of the building is used technically by, right now, by not just weed, but they store their chemical, they store their truck inside, there's nothing free.
Sure.
But, you know, we got the office space there, so should be an option to burn it back. I mean, landfill has the land, not just we has the dollars to put up the building that we desperately need out there. So I mean, we're both giving something into it. I mean, landfill would say, no, I don't want to build it, but we need one back. It's this disrepair. It's a time where we need to move forward with it. But this would be if the landfill was to lease back, it would be putting some dollars into it. Fighting the landfill to survive and make their way too.
So could we hit the pause button here since our appraiser and our treasurer are down here, and we can address some questions about the revitalization program. That'd be all right.
That's
Okay, that's what we did. We're gonna redirect here. Thanks for coming down. On the third item on our list is the neighborhood revitalization program. And I thought, I asked you down here, and I appreciate you coming. Thought maybe we'd have some comment one way or the other on this program, just general comments, you know. You haven't. How's that?
Not really. You want to come on?
Sure, come on up, please. That'd be great. So what I'm looking for is like, do people participate? Is it effective? Is it labor intensive? Is it, you know, just general stuff? Go for it.
I mean, as far as our office goes, it's not really labor intensive. I mean, we see. We see some participation in it. I don't think it's a well-known program, even though there are brochures and stuff out there. I'm really not sure where the drive for that goes. Because my understanding, and I'm not really sure whose program it actually is. Do you know, Kevin, where that falls as far as whose program it actually
It's the county's program, and then
Okay.
volunteer office.
Right.
So.
But who markets the program? I mean, as far as
It used
getting
to
the word out.
be RDA,
Okay,
whatever, the Savannah group, and then I think once we stopped with the contracting with them, we no longer. It's like it's together, their whole organization, I think we're behind it, and then I love the foundation development.
okay,
It's the one that was here when we originally had it proposed, they were the ones that were going behind and pushed to have them redeveloped. So,
okay.
yeah, I mean, we're back then. The big question when they first were is, can you get to Naperville County? And
Yeah.
everything was being, no.
Yeah.
didn't prefer that, so that's why I basically some areas it's not falling off, they're pretty limited, so.
Right. Yeah, and for my team, whenever we are aware that somebody's going to be building something, ahead of time, we will try to get them to participate just because we think it gets, it gets a little more out there into the community and it lets them know that, hey, there are these programs that you can take advantage of. Some we will have come in and ask ahead of time, before we ever know what's going on. So I think it does help, in some areas. As far as being labor intensive, basically for us, it's going out and doing an initial inspection before they do any work. Taking in the application, and then we kind of monitor that until the end, which we would do on a project like that anyway, because it's a building project. So once it's done, then we go out and do a final inspection, and then from that point, we determine what the difference is in the values from their base year to the year that it's completed, and then we use that as our number going forward. We have a spreadsheet that we keep track of all of those numbers on. Once we have those numbers, then we would transfer those to the clerk and then they take it from there. So really that's as labor intensive as it gets for us.
As far as my office, that he does that, he transfers numbers to clerk, and the clerk has to input them in the system. All I do is pull that report and write the check for the task. As far as that goes, so if if something goes wrong, I don't know it. But yes, as far as labor part for mine, I contact people. I try to put some flyers in with them when they send information out. Part of the neighborhood revitalization is they cannot pay their taxes late. Their taxes are due, not mail posted, due by the due date. If they miss that due date, they miss their payment for that year. And that's a statewide thing with the neighborhood revitalization. So you have to have that paid in our office by the due date. And then they also have to return, it's called an application, but it's sent out by the appraiser's office every year. They just re-sign it, make sure that there's correct phone numbers and everything. Kind of gives them a little bit of information, what year they are on the planner, and this. They have to return that before I send their check to them. So that way everything's on the same board. So as taxes come in, I look at the neighborhood revitalization. They started sharing their 3 years ago. Started sharing their sheet with me, so I knew who their spreadsheet with me, and I keep track who's paid taxes when, and make sure everything's lined up. And I, like I say, if they don't return that application, I reach out to them. Hey, you need to return this before you get your check. And the checks out.
So it's actually a refund rather than just a lower tax.
It's a refund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to pay in full before they.
Yes, so if they pay their taxes in full in December, then they get that NR check rebate refund, however you want to call that, in January. We do it at the time of the January distributions. And then those that pay half in December and half in May, then with our June distribution is when we get that.
The original plan had some cities and school districts. Since this last one was not, so with the county.
Right,
So
there are certain entities that do.
That's what would be interesting to see, because there's an interlocal agreement that has to be signed, and they have to sign on to it, and then it goes to the Governor's office, we believe, for final approval, if it's interlocal. So, I mean, the one that's in here, looks like it's the county that's signed on to it. Not certain parties to it, but this is the one in 2016. So I think the discussion would be, do we want other entities involved, or we just want to have the county sign on? And then I think they decided the original one, I think, was 10 years, and then this last one just 5 years, correct?
Yeah, as far as your rebates go, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the length is 10, but the rebates are only.
Yeah,
taxes.
we still have the one in Sabetha, it's the 10-year one up there. And that one is 10-year 100% versus what we have down here, which is the 5-year 75%.
So that's just, again, from a policy standpoint, something to think about and discuss, when you're doing it, it's whether you want to keep it on the 5-year 75%, or if you want something different, and, somebody with interest in discussing with cities, schools on signing up as well. I think that's kind of where policy part is going. And, you know, Epic might be able to, and then the Horton group might be able to help on that, because I think they were kind of the ones that were, just kind of up their alley on trying to help with development. So, if they want to help spearhead that and contact schools and cities to see if they want to be on board, I think that's a role they can play in the past.
Are we still thinking that we're gonna do pretty much countywide except for the slivers?
I mean, that's a recommendation. I mean, there's a AG opinion back from 96 or 7 that mentioned that the intent of the act would not be to have your entire county.
Right.
There are areas.
No, I'm just wondering if we wanted to be a little more restrictive on the
Oh,
areas.
that'd be a policy
Yeah.
decision, but yeah, I'd recommend you still have some restrictions, just so you're adamant with that.
Yeah. I know when I was in Anderson, there was only certain neighborhoods within the city that were eligible for that because they write it as sort of it's a program for blighted areas. And not all areas of our county are blighted.
That's what the author of the act came up, I remember, when we had a open forum on this, when it first came out, and that was what he indicated that was the intent, so. With blighted areas, so, that's why there was some restrictions on where it applies, so I would keep, but yeah, that'd be a policy decision for commission to make as well, whether you want to add areas that, would not qualify for. Yeah, and then I think that's an important group to be the ones to follow up with that and try to encourage them if that's something that's important for development. I think we could get that way. I didn't think that we would send it out, but I think as far as meeting and discussing the merits of it, I think that's the role that those groups can probably take.
So back up to your Sabetha deal, tell me about that. It's a city deal or it's a,
That's because of the city up there, that they're 10-year 100%. So yeah, that's Sabetha.
so the companies or people that are in Brown County and Sabetha, they do that.
Mhm.
Then they just don't pay the city tax part of it, or do they don't pay that?
That
Or the
is
county
well
part?
beyond me, because that's in the mechanics of the deal, and what we're dealing with on my side is basically the value. So on the back end of that, I'm not sure who's participating in what, as far as the tax side of things.
They
go.
still pay our county regular
Right.
county tax.
That's the full amount.
There, yeah. But I recall when first went into effect in the 90s, my recollection of Nemaha did not approve it at the beginning, and I think
Yeah.
that was an explanation as to why we had industry on the Brown County side of Sabetha, that was, or at least that was the explanation I had received, is that that's why one reason we saw that development on Brown County side of Sabetha is because we had it. So
Right.
now they do have it, there's exactly higher percentage.
And then somewhere in here that are listed the towns that were participating, there were some towns that weren't. That means they don't give a,
Yeah, they would be, that proportionate share, so say you had a school district that didn't want to participate, then that rebate for the school portion of that, ad valorem tax would not be written back to the state.
Right. So at that time, the Hiawatha Township and Robinson Township weren't involved. I don't know.
Let's take your word for it.
I mean, I don't know, it's something I read in the stuff that was given out here.
Yeah,
So,
That's probably from an administrative standpoint, that's probably somewhat tricky, it's just factoring all the groups that are and are not involved, tracking.
yeah, I think the amending system, they allow you to put a flag in there, yes or no, whether they're participating in it, so it kind of makes it a little easier as far as that goes, you know. And of course, as far as my office goes, you know, a full county-wide plan is easier for us to administer because we don't have to worry about where the boundaries are. You know, so that's, you know, just speaking from mine, but on the flip side of that, I understand where, you know, if we're excluding some areas that aren't considered blighted, I get that 100%. It's just, it's something to consider because like Kevin was saying, there's not every area that would qualify because they would not be a blighted area. So it's just a policy decision that we would have to come up with.
Then I had one person ask me, they had planned to build something and maybe they applied for it, but then they didn't get it done in 5 years or something,
That's 2 years.
or 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, there's restrictions in the plan on when you have to have it done. It's usually, if I remember correctly, it's the 2nd January following your application.
Right, that's what I'm saying there.
Yeah, and
So,
we may want to look at flipping that up a little bit too, because that was one thing that I had a hard time with. If somebody applied in November, they basically have 13 months to get it done, where if somebody applies in January, they get 24 months, just how it's written. I understand why it was, because it's splitting up the tax years. But it's kind of one of those things that, yeah,
so then I guess his question was, they did change their mind again, can they reapply? Or can you only apply for it once?
they can reapply for it as long as they haven't done any work for it,
Well, so if they did a little bit of work.
then they wouldn't qualify.
Right, so-
The only thing that you can do ahead of time, as far as the way that I read the plan, you can do dirt work, but anything else you cannot do before you sign up for that plan.
So I guess that's,
Because it's basically what it is, it's all based on the increase in value created by that structure that you're putting up. But if you've already poured concrete, well, you've already added value to it. And it would be very hard for us to extrapolate how much value does that concrete actually increase the value of the land or the property. So it's basically a bookkeeping item, I feel, that if you've started it and you just don't qualify because we can't separate that out. Or we probably could, but it would be a logistical nightmare if we had to start doing that for every project out there.
this seems a little. One of those government things, if you apply, you get it, and if you don't apply. My comments.
Is there a way to quantify? I'm sure there is. I guess, how does this affect the budgeting for the county? How do you account for this, the rebates and the? Yeah, I assume
That
you
would be
do.
more on the tax side of things.
I would have the reports upstairs. I think that what you do.
You're beautiful. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
That's why when you make your budgets, you can, whatever you have in your neighborhood violation plan. You gotta take that right off the top, and look at that.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what we can. Pull that 63,000, it's gone immediately, it's not available to us.
Right.
The area by statute, the neighborhood revaluation area, they have a definition, so it's for predominance of buildings or improvements by reason of dilapidation, deterioration, obsolescence, or total list of things are injurious to health, transmission of disease and mortality. So there's a whole list of things, so I mean, that's why the author of the acronym came up. I mean, there are clearly areas that probably aren't gonna fit within that, so that's why if you would designate the whole county as a neighborhood compensation area, I don't know if you can say there are areas in town and cities and elsewhere that have a predominance of dilapidated area. So I think if I recall, they exited out, not picking on areas like country club area around the country club, just so, I mean, it's very limited if I recall on what they remember the plan, but the thought was based on the opinion that you should not visit the entire county because there are areas that are not dilapidated.
Well, so how does that apply to the industry? I mean, this. But there's certain.
I wasn't involved on the
I mean-
designation, I think just in general, the thought was. You have issues if you designated an entire area because of that, so I think they picked out, like, I suppose those areas, that I don't apply, so there's some others as far as, let's see, standing number here. So they're in the area of Adonis building, the targets in 8 history architecture. That's. That. So yeah, as far as industrial areas. Saving that.
I guess I could say that more industry helps the county,
Yeah.
so it would help the individuals in the county, do a better job and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the areas X down were extremely.
Yeah. Yeah, there were very few, and I can't remember for the life of me where those areas exactly were, but. You know, I mean, in my office, if it's something that you guys wanted to look at, being more restrictive in that. You can always come up and look at our neighborhood maps that I have. You know, see if there are different neighborhoods that, you know, you feel would not qualify for that, or. You know, like I say, for us in my department. It's easier to go back with the way it is now because it's basically painting everything with a broad brush. You know, but does every area need that program? You know, that's the question. So.
And I'm not, I think, I don't know, Pepin or RDA, wherever they're, I mean, the plan would be updated as far as the statistics that would be used.
Yes.
Per capita, yeah. I'm sure-
Yeah, no.
I sure seems follow their purpose. Yeah. Email or just looking at like the filtering, you can employ them.
Really, it would go into all that things. You said something that I guess piqued my curiosity. So if Brown County, or maybe you said it, Kevin, Brown County had this program, Emo County didn't, and so there was some building on the Brown County side. Is that right? That's what I heard.
That was a common perception.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
fine, and whether the industry actually ever said that, I don't know, but the common perception was that probably was a big reason for having it go off the ground.
So that's one of those either intended or unintended consequences of something like this. But my question is, if you could leave that out. I mean, do people and our projects, do they use this NRP? Yeah, availability, is that like a big determining factor? And I'm gonna build, I'm not gonna build. Do we have any way of figuring that out?
I think that the projects where that comes into play are very few. I think people are gonna build, they're gonna build.
So my question and where I'm leading is this something? I mean, is this? I mean, of course, if you're participating, it's great, but if you're not, you know, you really have no.
Right.
Yeah. So if we. Let me just to tell you my line of thinking, the best way possible, my line of thinking here is that if we say we're pulling 63,000 out of the county's budget. Right off the top because of NRP. So then all we're doing, unless we lower some spending, you know, all we're doing is we're reaching to people that didn't build for more. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I question projects like this that target specific. Because
I mean, what it was meant to do was it was meant to promote. Increasing the values in neighborhoods by either building new or refurbishing what you had or something, you know, something like that. I think that where it kind of goes askew is when you have these non-blighted areas, so to speak, that are participating in them. Then you get a lot of people who are, you know, for all intents and purposes, probably shouldn't qualify for such a project because they don't have a house that's in need of serious upkeep. And, you know, in a neighborhood which, you know, is better than other neighborhoods as far as the the condition of the homes as a whole. That, and I think that that's what this program usually is meant for, is those areas that need help. And so it gives those people a tax break to get those homes up to where,
Sure.
where they should be. And it adds to the county coffers in the long run, because after the 5 years, now you've got tax on that higher value.
Right.
So, it's a policy decision for you guys to come up with as to, is it countywide? Like I said, for me, painting everything with a broad brush is a heck of a lot easier for us, because we don't have to then determine, does this fall within these boundaries? Is it when I was in Garnett, theirs was a very targeted program within the city of Garnett, and it came right down to where the alley was, and everything on this side of the alley could qualify, but not over here. It was very targeted to the areas that needed that type of help.
And it was effective?
I don't know that I could really say that for sure.
In theory, it was.
I mean, in theory, I would think it did, because, we did have a lot of participation in those areas. So, and a lot of them, they were businesses, people that would move in and they would either, they would either refurbish a building that was currently standing, or they would tear a building down and build a new building. So, and we did have residential that qualified for that as well in the blighting areas. So, I mean, I would like to think that it would have been a very beneficial program to those areas. But like I say, they had probably 6 different programs for different neighborhoods, so.
I think the new business is one of them that would be attracting them, if we're gonna put up a village. Tax rebate,
Certainly,
for their jumpstart for their business,
certainly.
but that's what you were seeing over there.
Well, and the other thing too, that they also have is the IRBs that they could be looking into, or, the exemptions, the business exemptions that they could also look into for that type of issue. But if they don't qualify for those, then certainly they would qualify for this.
I have a question for you, Mr. Garnett, and work with different programs,
Mhm.
because you have to spend at least a minimum amount to then qualify.
Yeah.
Each of the different programs have different amounts.
It's been enough years where I don't really remember, but I know that they had, I think, at least 6 of them that were running concurrently. I don't know what the qualifications were for each one of them, because that was not anything that fell to the appraiser's office down there.
I just noticed that could also be a problem in the blighted areas. Can they afford the minimum amount that has to come out of their pocket to qualify for the program? Where's your, well,
15,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and for me, if you're looking at 15,000. If you're not putting that much into it, it's really not worth it. It's really not worth the time and the administrative costs for us to have to do that for the return on our investment.
Sure. Okay.
And I think that was probably something that went in the original plan and probably just stuck. And I think they probably had to have some sort of a bar set, because, I mean, you don't want to do it for something that's just $1,000. That's
Right.
by the time we send out our people twice and take pictures and, whatnot, it's not anything that we're gonna ever recoup those funds.
Okay.
The minimum. Of that.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be that's something that needs to be raised.
15,000 doesn't get you much.
No,
as
it doesn't.
far as when you're
It really
looking at. What is the timeline on this? I mean, it said,
I think it expires at the end of the year, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Right on.
So it's
Good
not
job.
Critical, I think the plan was, this was signed in
16.
16, yeah.
So. It was effective January 1, 2016, so yeah, something. There are some, public hearing notices and some publication notices, so I mean, I'd say we probably need to. August, September, maybe, by then, maybe have a good grasp on what we're wanting to do. Right.
All right. Well, it was mentioned, like the economic development entities in the county, would they, you think it'd be wise to have them? follow
Yeah, I
that
think
too?
I think they.
Yeah, I don't want to make a bunch of busy, I'd like to see what the effect, the $62,000, that's a real number I can talk about. You know, I wonder how many participants that is. Is that 10, 20, 40? Who knows?
That's exactly what the reports about. Get
Yeah.
the information or
Yeah.
next week. bring it back.
And it's gonna be a rolling number too,
Sure.
because it's a 5-year plan, and so every year you've got ones that are expiring and new ones that are coming on, so.
Be interesting too, is there a way to figure or to document? Do people build and then they don't apply for this for whatever reason? I mean, I guess your office knows that they bill. It'd be interesting to see the ratio there of people who knew about it and did it versus people who,
Right,
you know, just went ahead and did it anyway. I mean, might be,
yeah, and that's something I can look into and see if there's a report that I can generate.
yeah, I don't
for that.
want to generate a bunch of busy work.
No, but I mean, it would be, I think it would maybe help you whether or not it's something you want to continue or not, because if it's a low participation phase, we don't think that it's really driving a whole lot, then, you know, it may not be worth it to continue it.
Okay.
You know, that would be something that report might be able to last me a little.
Okay. Okay, so would it be all right? Do you have any more questions for while they're here? No. We maybe get some more information, put something together that you think is relevant to us and it affects your office too, big time. Yeah, maybe you'd have something that we could see to you and we'll try to touch base with some of the groups that are really impacted by this throughout the county and just talk about it at a later date. Does that sound all right?
Sorry, yeah.
I do appreciate both of you coming down. Anything else while you're here about something not NRP?
No, not for mine.
Okay. No pressure.
Minutes.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Right.
you.
All right.
And or I did look over Forest information and I think it's solid recommendations, so I didn't have anything different than what we had on his memo or email that he wrote to me.
Okay.
Online, so
All
I
right.
think those would be advised.
Well, one question I had on that was, if they take that comp time and then that somewhere in the year, the wages are increased, do they get paid the current wage or the wage that was what they did when they had the time taken out?
Yeah, so you'll cash in, if you cash in at the end of the year, you'll cash in at whatever your earnings is at that time, so yeah.
There could be,
Could be if that's what was happening, but Congress would be, I think, more problematic if we did it as requested. Based off what the rest of that.
Payroll is extremely complicated.
Yes, well, I mean, I recall places that would give any kind maybe like some of the major cities would give them like breaks on admission fees for city owned property and things like that. Well, that's income, so they have tax issues on not taxing it as well. So you have a de minimis amount, but if you go over, I mean, there are some major cities that were giving, you know, benefits to employees that were over $1,000 or so. I think once you reach a threshold, there's some issues there. So yeah, there's a lot of tax consequences sometimes, but you don't think of.
Okay, and then solid waste, there's a lot of resolutions there coming up. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, the statute is that, and so I think he's attached the old plan, and so he wanted to update that, but just something he can work up and present to all of you.
Okay.
From the legal standpoint, yeah, I think we have that plan. I know we had the closure. We hired an engineering firm in the early 90s when we were closing out the landfill for actually storing waste there, and so that plan, I think, is still in effect with Paragon. That was way back when, and that was on landfill closure, so,
okay. So the one I'm looking at is from 1976.
yeah.
So, yeah, 50 years. Okay, then just the building. I mean, we need to figure out, I guess, as a board, which direction we're going. And if we decide to go the direction of building, is the proposal to fund it through the noxious weed capital improvement? Is that? I mean, is that?
That's why I think we'll have to, the auditor's gonna have.
The auditor's gonna have to look
Or
at that.
asking questions in the separate fund and capital improvement from one to another, I think that's gonna have to be an auditing. Decision to fix that.
Okay, so in the interest of time, every week we wait, the construction gets pushed back. That's living in my.
I mean, honestly, it should have been something addressed when it was brought up, though. I mean, this is now being brought up in a short email to us that we get, Thursday or Friday. And so, when this plan was presented and the funding should have been presented as well.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I mean.
They were gonna split it originally, right?
Well, no, all they talked about, noxious weed had the dollars to do this. Landfill had anything put in, because the thing is, like, we know what the shape of the landfill is right now, and that's not an option, but. I know there's none of us in this courthouse would go work out there.
Well, I'm not saying that. I mean, the question is, the weight is capital improvement. I don't think that was not mentioned before.
That was them responding to some questions we had about funding. Originally, they had a plan. We're sort of learning as we go here, which is less than a week.
Yeah. Well, I think the auditor could answer even as quickly as today. I mean, if you want
Really?
a provisional motion that you could approve this contingent upon the auditor approving the request, that's something you could do. And that way you're not waiting. That way, if the auditor approves it, said that it's one of the standards, and you would be waiting. That's an option you could do if you're wanting to do that. I think policy.
Okay, thank you. All right,
All right.
appreciate it. Okay, so we check this revitalization program off the list for today. You want to back up to the building?
Yeah, but.
We got about 8 minutes.
Get the easiest way to do it, they're both housed together in the same building now, and we want to know. Capital improvement, noxious weed, and build the building that is used out, like, build for both.
Not sure if the lease back is the right term. I mean, I think they're just going to rent office space. You know,
Can they, the landfill owns the land, so they put their part into it, I mean,
Right.
they can't put the building on there unless the landfill says they can put the building there, but we're just trying to get around. Landfill don't have the money to put into it, noxious weed does, and we need the building. The bottom line is, are we going to allow it to happen or not? If we can use those funds from the noxious weed, get the building, get things corrected out there. That's the bottom line where we're at.
I guess what I see is if the noxious weed has that much money sitting around there. We're saying we're gonna be short of money when it comes to budget time. Some of that money could be used to fund them for the next year.
That's where we've done that over and over and over, and that's where we're, cash. Right?
Well, but just from one department.
no, I get your point.
I mean, we took 30,000 away from this year out of that, and I
So
think it wasn't used towards their budget already last year. And we took a very big chunk off of that last year.
I look
Yes,
at,
I don't know if that's the exact number or not, but I'd have to look.
well, no, that's fine. What I'm trying to do is differentiate between the two departments. Because they're distinctly different, but they share space. The landfill, to my knowledge, needs to operate on user fees. This, I think, accomplishes that. Because that's an expense. They can account for that every month, and we can adjust, based on volume fees. But I think this works, but it's got to pass the auditor. And that's a great point. If it doesn't pass the auditor, then we can back up. But to your point, yeah, how do they accumulate that much money? But one way they did it was by having a building that they were just patching together with, spare tin hot glue. So the building out there, to me, and we may differ on this, the building out there to me is inadequate and something needs to be done. Even, we got some pictures this morning, yes, or I did about some stuff that made it through to C&D that shouldn't. And if we had a building out there is a little more modern with some cameras, I mean, we might be able to track some of that stuff and get some of that problem fixed out.
Think about how tall some of the trucks are, you can't see the top of it.
Right.
So-
Go ahead.
So my question is, why aren't, is their office up higher so they can't see down in there?
You mean put it on the second,
I don't know.
the layout of the building, I'm not sure.
I mean, cause, yeah, you can't see when you're sitting down at ground level, what's in those trucks or even in the trailer hardly.
So if the elevators now only haul grain and they all have cameras. And
Okay,
they're all looking right in the top of your.
okay, so camera could,
Camera could do it, it'd help.
right,
That's something that I've talked about last 3-4 years, get cameras out there, but it's coming down to, well, it costs to do that. I mean, you can't see what's happening down the other end, even costs the camera with focus down there where they jump the C&D, so you can do it to see what they're doing. See it, I mean, but we don't have enough people to be everywhere, to look at everything that comes through there.
so,
Well, I mean,
So you send an email to the auditor. Okay, and so we'll just wait patiently, see what they say, what he says.
one question I would be, is the transfer station? Okay, it's a landfill, we own the landfill, we own the building. But is the transfer station, do they own the building or are they just a transfer station or running a business from our property? I mean, how's that? How's that set up? You know what I mean? Is the transfer station because of the waste management actually own the building or is it our building to fix up? I'm just. There was so much in there to take in.
You're right. I mean, as I understand it, they are
lost.
they're an entity of the county. The county owns everything, but the actual operations of the business is funded by a user fee.
Yeah.
And site improvements and capital equipment costs from revenue, yeah, and to be retired from, it says here, from a portion. Which will, yeah, I'm not trying to. Probably means that it just doesn't take them all to retire the debt. It just takes part of them so they can continue to. We want the,
Awesome, 1975.
well, with a lot of handwritten stuff on the side of it, well, and that's fine. I just, we don't read cursive anymore, and some of that I couldn't figure it out. Bottom line, I believe this board wants the transfer station to be successful. We are just trying to figure out a way that we do it that meets the requirements of the resolution and funding this building. It's a big project. So we will wait on the opinion of our auditor and we will move on this as fast as we can. Is this something that say we don't get an opinion back today, it comes back tomorrow? Can we do something over email or do we have to call a special? Call a special? Okay. All right. Well, we're coming up on 9 o'clock here, which is the bid opening. We got a minute or two. Is there any other comments about it? Or something, Mr. Pollard?
no, it's. Wonder if someplace in the definitions. On the construction demolition waste. It sounded like you could almost have some other stuff in there besides.
And that's under the state statute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so construction demolition waste means solid waste resulting from the construction, remodeling, repair and demolition of structures, roads, sidewalks, utilities. Untreated wood and untreated sawdust, et cetera. It's you can read it and see if it. Like you almost could have some trash from your. If you could put your trash from your, the construction people are eating in there. Or maybe they're being a little too picky on it, but maybe not.
You know, kind of the rules on the, if it blows, it can't go down there, because you can't control it when it dumps out. It takes off, and a rule of thumb, you know. A lot of time.
Small amounts of municipal solid waste generated by the consumption of food during construction or demolition sites. Okay, that makes sense. Including cups, bags, bottles, furnitures and appliances from which ozone. That, you mean it, do you think that means they can have, well, like this morning, we got a picture of a washing machine and a refrigerator.
Well,
According to statute, does that mean that's allowed? Is that what that means?
it can't have Freon or something in it, I don't think, but
Right? Okay, we'll come back. It's-
I mean, I'd say that was kind of up to the.
They're gonna be gone, being gone, we need quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we can really.
It's just
talk on
discussion.
video.
It's fun to talk about. Okay, now we're 9 o'clock here. We're ready to open bids for tubes.
You know, can I see the, when that was that, I'll make sure I got the same statute. You don't. Thank you.
We received 4 bids. The list that was sent to children.
We got a bid over.
I had J&J Drainage, and their bid was $11,758.60.
Do that again.
11,758.60. And then I had Wilburn sells. $11,791.50.
Okay, I had contact at $13,035.80.
Metal culverts was, $12,591.20.
Did everyone's bid include everything they were asking?
These were identical on the number.
Okay. I was going through it.
That, I'm not sure with delivery price or not.
This-
Question that on there.
Deliveries included in 3 to 4 weeks now. And yeah, mine met the requirements. And it's- So they're all 16 gauge. I assume we're all. Is that something you check too? I mean, those are all 16s.
They will be,
Will it? Okay.
These are all 16.
Okay.
because I believe I put that in the letter.
All right.
We can get from last year.
Well, one,
Wow. This year. Where's Julie Joe?
That's it.
That's. Okay, in this instance. This would go with the lowest and best bid. Pretty close.
No, I'm sure that. Meets the requirement on, this, who we use in the past too. And the bands match up with the bands of this new place.
and for some reason, I was thinking the one year that we did get from J&J, yes.
What?
The one year that we did get from J&J, I was thinking that there was some kind of an issue. I was gonna actually call Jerry. Because Jerry, I think, was the one that had the issue.
We found something was not as smooth on the end or something like that.
Right.
Or
Right,
Then what?
there was a
Something
cut,
about the end of the tube that was
not cut as,
different, wasn't as smooth or something, they cut it
and the
different.
bands didn't fit right because of that, if I remember right. But that was, I think, in 22. Or 21 or 2. Because it was one of the first years I was here.
Well, do we need to allow time to ask questions? Before we accept it, or do we need to move? Right.
I don't think we need to ask for what our problem was with them. Before we go forward, we're gonna have an issue.
Hoping to compare it to which last time I think she had. See maybe the sizes match up. And fine.
The sizes do,
Do they?
yeah, the diameter.
Yeah. Yeah, but they were in 20-foot lengths, I believe, the last.
Correct.
oh, here,
And with those, you don't need the rings, but I don't know if all the foremen have, that's something else to talk to them about because I don't know how the other two feel about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I asked a guy I know, and their bell and gasket connections on the plastic pipe. Yeah, he said. That gray color is a real high-end commercial type, and he had nothing bad to say about it, other than it's expensive, so. But I don't know how it compares here without
Oh,
that paper. Do you have it?
so here are the quotes I have. That's the 15 each one. That's one quote. Let's see. That was Wilburn's quote. $14.42 a foot,
An 18.
or 15. Was a little bit more than this, I guess. 15 inch,
No,
60 cents a foot.
yeah, really, that's not that much.
18 inch one was 1640, and there was 1963 compared to 1640, $3 a foot. Lots different on 18 inch,
Yeah, when you get the bigger size, it's a little bit more.
24.
Okay, well, we better talk to the foreman and ask questions. Is that the consensus here? All right. And then we can ask him about the plastic pipe too.
Sure.
So my deal on the plastic pipe. I'm not, why do we need, if there's a dealer in the county that's comparable in price, why do we have to keep some on hand?
I thought you were gonna talk to the foreman guy.
Well,
I thought he wanted that to try, just to put some in, and see what it was like to work with it.
but if we just buy them when we need them, why do we have them like tied up in them?
Just supplier.
Luke,
Kind of Robinson.
you need him.
Will we have them sitting there on hand to get it working?
He does have some on hand. If you drive down to Robinson, you can see them stacked up.
Yes. That's just something, not, maybe we don't need to spend right this year. Yeah, if he needs 2 or 3, that's fine. I mean, I think. you can-
I
you
just
go
did
pick
what I
him up.
was asked to do,
Right.
so
I'm not,
Okay, so from here on out with these two quotes, we need to, do we each individually need to talk to our road foreman and see what they think, or is that something?
I can do it.
Would you do that?
Yeah. I can-
Okay, okay, then we can address it at next week's meeting. I
Okay.
mean, is that all right? Oh, yeah,
I'll go call.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to-
Just, yeah. Because of history with the county or something. And I'll make copies and bring these to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Okay, next on our list that I have is number 5, and it's that revised comp time agreement. Is there any discussion on that? Okay. Well, let's go to the end of month reports. Bill.
Thank you.
We're on item number 6. We're looking. Is there anything you see that stands out that we need to know? No. All right.
Say that they wanted it renewed.
Yeah, I'd like one.
Trying to keep business,
Yeah. Industry, things like that. Yeah, there's, okay. No, sure. Sure. Yeah, I think, it'd be nice to have them speak to us if they want, and then we'll go from there.
So, on that, are we required to have a hearing with one way or another? Don't know, or someplace where it said that if you put it, you had to have a hearing too. I could be wrong. A lot of pages to read on that stuff. Okay.
This is.
yes.
Okay. I really don't have any questions on it. Does anyone have any questions on all this information? Financial reports?
I'm good.
Okay.
You know, the only. Back here on the first page, the only one it's. I mean, everybody should be at 67%, right? After 4 months,
Give or take, yeah.
and service for elderly is 64, so they're not too low.
Okay.
That's everybody else is okay, I think.
All right. All right.
Oh, but there's a 60, or the attorney's on at 62%. All right. Yeah, I don't know. 55.
Okay. Those percentages are helpful, but they don't necessarily mean,
Right.
yeah, they may
Just
just have.
gives you an idea where they're at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got a 9:30 here. Is there anything else that we want to bring up here before the mission? Well, we got a few minutes.
That's something.
I got some light inside with glints on my.
Oh, all right.
All on smaller. I think it's okay. I approved, he said it was okay. We went through them, so. He verbally approved everything I signed off on, but.
Okay.
For your consideration.
Well, we want to just take some.
There's no issue with any of them. Most of them are all.
Okay, do you guys want to ask questions about it? You want to look at them and ask questions?
They got to review them.
Yeah. I wouldn't know, but okay.
he said, it seems, I spoke with Jerry. And he said that any time we don't get from Wellborn, it kind of seems like we has issues. But it was, he wasn't sure if it was J&J or Metal Culverts that the ends were bad and some of them had some rips in them, he said. And
Okay,
he says that doesn't mean, they'd be like that now,
sure.
but it's just the hassle of having to send them back, have new ones made.
And did you ask about the plastic? Or
No,
we're just gonna stick with this for now because they want to stay galvanized?
I think Jerry does, because I asked him about the plastic at one time.
Okay.
And he didn't seem too excited about it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. All right, so we can, so the preference is, especially at a $40 difference or $32 difference, to stay with one sales. That sound. Okay, well then, is there any motions made on the two bids that we opened? Okay, is there a second?
I'd second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you very much. Sign it on the. Oh. Okay, sign based on your approval. Okay, so we've got a stack of lights and sirens permits, emergency vehicle permits here that have been approved by everyone with us here. So is there any?
You need to read the names off or not?
I want me to do it or read the names?
Just read them, I
Okay,
guess.
for Brad Rockoff, Jeff Spiker, Elizabeth Jeske, Gordon Hooper, Matt Tegens, Joseph Harrell, and Jason Hooper.
Motion to approve the said names for lights and siren.
Okay. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. Now I'll start. Okay, anything else? No? Is it okay if we,
I think so.
are you ready, Sheriff Merchant? Okay, we've been asked.
The executive session for non-elected personnel, the commissioner, county clerk, and the sheriff for the.
Let's go contact for the.
Conduct for the reason. For non-elected personnel.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. We'll be back. action taken. You need any more time?
No, do we need anything else, Nathan? Yes. Sure, if that's, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get from there.
Fine.
You guys have anything for me while I'm there?
Not that needs to come up in the meeting, okay?
Did,
Okay, that's
did you get any training on those traffic counters? Has that happened?
not yet.
Not yet.
We've been. supposed to do that,
Okay.
But she showed them to us. and
Okay.
everything, That's explained, and showed us it, been out shoot, everything, so.
Okay.
And we're gonna follow up on it.
All right.
It's a very good, I think, a very good purchase.
Is there anything, I mean, I guess that we need to know that maybe we don't, anything happening in the county that's unusual?
Just had a horrible accident there Friday, and people lost their lives, and I thoughts and prayers with their family and everything else, so. Tragic.
Okay.
You don't need them for anything else, so.
I think we're good. Thanks for coming in.
You betcha, thank you, thank you.
Okay, did we hear back from the auditor by chance? No. All right. Okay, so let's go back to this number 2 on the agenda, which is the bill. And so our noxious weed, Mr. Rodville, they'd like to move forward and accept the bid from RFN Construction and pay for it out of the capital improvement fund for noxious weed with the intention of the transfer station renting office space. Is there any, I guess, any more discussion or comments on this? It's a big deal.
Have in on the conversation. This came to us, but I don't know Don's thoughts on this too. Even. Again. I do know a little bit about. Making it more complicated. Receiving this bid. I was contacted by one of the people that bid, it's a June 1, it's a metal price increase. It was bid for not. Will be more.
Sure. Well, sure. And just trying to get it built before winter too.
I just want to let you know that was a. They're also building, the same builder is building and building. I want the house here. But one up here, down right now, for them, everything contracted with. Looking at it.
Yes.
Is he? Okay.
We need to go through that meeting first.
All right.
Like, okay, to get it going, I guess.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I just,
We need to talk to Don.
okay.
Have a chance. After last. That needs to happen.
Okay. Well, that's,
This does directly affect him out there and build it.
okay. All right. Well, I mean, if that's the pleasure of the board, that's what we can do. Just sit on, table it till next week. You okay with that, Mr. Paul? Yeah, I'm okay with it. All right.
I guess.
Go ahead.
Part of my deal is. I know it was easier to put all that stuff together, but I think maybe some of it could have been separated out. Probably won't make any difference, so.
You mean in the bid, the different?
Right, the different,
Of bid.
different portion of it.
Okay, well, we will, we'll wait till next week, and if he's on the agenda we'll just make a little extra time for it. And we'll talk about it. So I guess we made a decision to wait to make a decision. So, okay, is there anything else? Okay,
And an executive session for non-elected personnel on deck. For 15 minutes with the three commissioners.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. There we go. Motion carried. No binding action taken. We're towards the end of the agenda here. In fact, we are at the end. Is there anything else needs to come in front of the commission? Here, a good meeting. We got a lot of stuff to forward to next time. If there's nothing, I guess we look for a motion to adjourn. Are we good? Everything's checked all the boxes? I move we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye.